This is from the CLF with working with module number 6. This is the activity by the name of AWS Lambda. In this hands-on activity, you will create an AWS Lambda function. You will also create an Amazon CloudWatch event to trigger the function every minute. The function uses the AWS Identity and Access Management IAM role. This IAM role allows the function to stop an Amazon Elastic Cloud Compute Cloud or Amazon EC2 instance that is running in the Amazon Web Services. So what this function pretty much is going to do is going to be able to shut down will be able to stop an EC2 instance. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's see what resources they have created for us, if they have created any. And we see that there are 2 EC2 instances here, which is interesting. Okay, so we have 2 EC2 instances, and we can see. Okay, so they're up and running. Okay, so this lab is expected to last about 30 minutes. I have already clicked on the instructions. I clicked on the Start Lab button, waited enough time for the resources to be provisioned for my account. And once I've done that, I clicked on the AWS button to get the lab started. The next thing I have to do now is just start going through the instructions. So if I go to task 1, it says create a Lambda function. So what I need to do, again, in order to look for Lambda, I'm going to go for Lambda and then select Lambda. And the next step, step number 6, is going to be choose a create function. Here is the create function. We're part of Lambda, create function. And now in this, I need to select, step number 7 says create function. In the create function screen, choose author from scratch. So this is the one that's selected. The name of the function is going to be called my stopinator, which means it's going to stop EC2 instances. The runtime that I'm going to be using for this is going to be Python 3.8, but I have a higher version of Python, so I'm going to go for the higher version of Python. And the next option is I'm going to leave the defaults, whatever the defaults are. And now it says choose execution role. Okay. So I need to choose an execution role. So it says change the default execution role. Okay. Change. Okay, so I need to select change the default execution role. Execution role, use an existing role. Use an existing role. Okay. And then from the drop-down list, we're going to select my stopinator. So this lab already provisioned this role, this IAM role, so that it's able, so that Lambda is going to be able to interact with EC2 instances and will be able to shut them down. Okay, so that's that. We have already, remember this role, what it allows is for Lambda to interact with EC2 instances. As I mentioned in several times in class, if one service needs to access another service, it needs to have a role attached to it for that interaction to take place. Okay, and the next step I need to follow, this is step number 8. It says that I should click create function, which I'm doing right now. Okay, now task 2, configure the trigger. In this task, you will configure a scheduled event to trigger the Lambda function by setting a CloudWatch event as the event source, or the trigger. This is the thing. The trigger is what's going to cause the Lambda function to execute. And then the Lambda function can be configured to operate much like a cron job on a Linux server, or a scheduled task on a Microsoft Windows server. However, you do not need to have a server running to host it. Okay, So I need to click on add trigger, and the next thing I need to do is step number 10. It says select that, choose a trigger. Choose the selected trigger drop down. Let me see. Okay, let's see. So I need to, step number 10, it says that I should look for event bridge or CloudWatch events. So I can type it in here. Instead of searching for it, I can just type it in here. This is step 10 again. I can search for event bridge or CloudWatch events. Okay, here it is. I don't know why I didn't see it before, but here it is what we need. And now the next thing I need to use, I need to give it a name to the rule. Pick an existing rule. I'm going to create a new rule instead of creating an existing one, because I haven't created an existing rule myself, and I don't think the lab also provision any existing rules to me. So the rule name is going to be every minute, and the run type is going to be schedule expression. Okay, so this is the rule description. It doesn't say what the rule description is, but I assume it's going to be I don't know, runs every minute. And then I need to indicate rule type. It says that it's going to be schedule expression. Okay, that's the right one. It's already selected. And then I need to specify what rate is going to be, or how often. In this case, the rate is going to be 1 minute. Okay, doesn't like that. Okay, let's see if we can find. Just a moment. Okay, so what I need to specify here is going to be just like step number 11 says. I need to type in rate, and then in parentheses 1 minute. Let's see if that works. Good. So every 1 minute this is going to happen. And the next thing I need to do is add. So I'm adding the rule that's going to be execute every minute. That will cause the, so this is, remember, this is going to be event bridge, generating an event every 1 minute. And that event is the one that's going to cause the Lambda trigger to be activated. So I click add. So now I move on to step number 3. It says configure the Lambda function. In this task, you will paste a few lines of code to update 2 values in the function's code. You do not need to write the code to complete this task. Step number 13, below the function overview pane, choose code. Okay, so here is this option, choose code, and I need to select Lambda function, which would be this area, to display in the code source. In the code source, so I need to, it says that I will have to replace this. Yes, I'm going to replace this, it seems, by the code that is provided to me in step number 14. So I delete the existing code, and this is the code that is going to be able to shut down the EC2 instance. This is the code that's going to be executed every time that event bridge or CloudWatch events triggers every minute the function. Okay, so now that I've done this, replace the region with region. Replace the, in step number 15, after pasting the code, step number 15. Okay, replace region. Okay, so I need to, okay, this is a variable. In other words, I need to use the variable, the name of the location. I probably need to leave it. Let me see. So I just need to replace this. I'm going to leave this single. So the region is going to be US dot east 1. That's the region. That's Northern Virginia. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be, the region is going to be US dash east dash 1. That's the region. Okay. Okay, this is the one that refers to North Virginia. If you can see it here, that's the name of that's the code for that region. Okay. And then let me see what else. Replace your region. So I have another variable here that refers to the same, which is going to be US East dash 1. And then this one is making a reference to this variable. So that should be all set. I don't need to replace it. I only need to replace whatever is in between greater, less than, and greater than symbols. Okay, and the next step is verify. Let me see. So we have done this so far. Question number 16, challenge section. Verify that the EC2 instance name instance 1 is running in your account. If I want to do that, I'm going to, because I want to, I want to open a new session, a new browser tab. I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to click on this, and I will be able to navigate to the EC2 instances, and it says in step 16 that I should verify that instance 1 exists there. Yes, there it is. You're encouraged to figure out how to do this without a specific guide, step-by-step guide. Okay, but I just did that, and it's running, which is good. And then the next thing I need to do in step 17, replace, return to the AWS browser, Lambda browser, and replace with instance ID. Okay, so I need to find the instance ID of that EC2 instance that I just saw a moment ago. I need to get this instance ID. Oops. Let me see. I need to select this. Need to copy it. Control C. And then, well, I could have gotten it from here too. Same thing. I need to minimize this. Now, instances. So there's a reference to instances somewhere. Okay. Encourage to this. Okay. Return to the AWS Lambda console browser tab and replace with instance ID with the actual ID. Well, I don't see that. Let me see. Okay, I think the instances here is the one that I want to replace. So I'm going to have to select this one. I'm not sure whether I did this. I might have done this mistakenly, but the region is the one that had to be replaced by that. And here it should have said, it probably said the instance ID. So I replaced that instance ID with the actual ID of the instance you just copied. Keep the single quotation marks around this, and it says, okay, okay, so I just did that. Yes, this is the way it should have looked. I made a mistake when I replaced the instance ID variable here by the region. It should have read like this. Now the next step that I need to do is choose file and save changes. Let me go to File, Save Changes. Okay, File, Save All. Okay. The next thing I need to do is File, Save Changes. At the top corner of the code source box, it says that I should be able to deploy. Let me see. So the next thing I need to do is step number 18. It says choose the file menu, save the changes, which I did. Then in the top right corner of the code source box, choose deploy. We have code source, choose deploy. So I'm going to be deploying the function, and it has been successfully deployed. And now choose the monitor tab near the top of the page. Monitor tab at the top of the page. So I assume it might be this one. And let's monitor it. Let's see what happens. So remember, every minute this function is going to get triggered. I don't think a minute has gone by yet. Choose monitor. So I'm monitoring it. Metrics. Monitor tab. Note that one of the charts, how many times your function has been invoked. Okay, these are the invocations. So far I don't, oh, it's, we can see here, this is the number of invocations, and it says that the count is 1. It has been invoked 1 time already, which is good. And then I assume as time goes by that the number of invocations is going to increase. But that's the main idea about this. And let's see. So now we need to verify that the Lambda function is working. So what I need to do is I need to go again to my EC2 instances and see whether that instance that I wanted to stop has been stopped. And we can see here, instance 1 has been stopped on a schedule. Something interesting about this is by doing something equivalent to this, you can automate the shutting down and the starting of EC2 instances, and it would be done automatically because via Lambda. And remember, in this particular case, Lambda is triggering these events based on the schedule. So for instance, if you suppose that there was this company only, let's suppose for a moment that this is a company that only, maybe it's a movie theater and they need to have computers. Maybe the movies start during, let's assume that the movie theater opens at 6 p.m. and closes at 10 p.m. for instance every day. Then and then you need to use an EC2 instance. They could start one instance or a group of EC2 instances based on something like this, using Lambda to automate the starting and the stopping of the EC2 instances based on when this movie theater needs to have these EC2 instances up and running. But that's the main idea about this. So with this, we have completed this activity and we have seen that it works. We were able to use serverless compute. The nice thing about this is the compute in this particular case is being is happening, but we're not using an EC2 instance to execute that script. Instead of that, we're using serverless compute, which is a very interesting idea because you don't need to have, you're only going to pay whenever that Lambda function runs, which means I don't need to have the computer on 24/7 for this to happen. And then that Lambda function is triggering itself every moment. Let's take a look at this. We can see that it has been triggered a few times. It has been, in this case, is not the cumulative, is not the sum of the times that the function has been triggered, but on any given time, how many times the function gets triggered. And it's being triggered once every minute. So the rate in this case is going to be 1 per minute. Okay, so this concludes this lab. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to end the lab because I have completed it. So click End Lab. I click on that, and then everything is going to start to be deprovisioned, and I want to have access to my resources pretty quickly, pretty soon. Okay, so this is done. So okay, so we saw that it worked.